We think about the mailbag from time to time because it's a way to provide some content on a day when there aren't a ton of boiling storylines. And we realized last night what's really going on right now in the NFL. You know, it goes from being extremely interesting at times to, well, we've talked about this, we've talked about this, we've talked about that. So let's see what you want to talk about. Here's one from Ben Phillips. What's your over-under on the number of teams that can win the Super Bowl this season? Now, it all depends upon how you define the term can. In theory, all 32 still can. As a practical matter, though, you know, we did this exercise back in June, and that was before we played games, and we saw what some of the teams are, what some of the teams aren't. Injury to Joe Burrow removes the Bengals from the conversation. So we've got the Bills, and I always work through it in my brain, AFC East, AFC North, AFC South, AFC West, and then the same order in the NFC. So we've got the Bills. We've got the Ravens. Maybe the Steelers. I don't know. Put a pin in that one. The Colts, who we didn't expect, they're in that mix now. The Texans have fallen out. The Colts have taken their place. We've got the Chiefs. You can't leave the Chiefs out. They're not disqualified based upon what we've seen so far. It's not looking great, but they're still in there. Chargers, Broncos, still in there. Eagles, Commanders, Packers, Lions, Buccaneers, 49ers, I don't know. Rams, yes. I don't know about the 49ers. I don't know about the Seahawks. I don't know. It's more amorphous than it was because now we're playing the games. And we see records. We see teams that are 3-0 that we didn't expect to be 3-0, like the Colts. We see teams that are 2-1 that didn't look great week one, but they've won 2 games pretty impressively, like the Seahawks. So right now, I don't know. Maybe there are 12 to 14 teams. And by that standard, you got to leave the Steelers in. And I left the Vikings out. I passed over them. But who knows? If they skew more like the team that we saw on Sunday against the Bengals than they were the prior Sunday night against the Falcons, then they're a potential contender. But their quarterback play. Look, at the end of the day, and there have been years where a team gets into the postseason by the skin of its teeth and then it runs the table. A prerequisite to that is having a great quarterback, like the Packers did in 2010 when they got the 6th seed, which at the time was the last seed at the table, went to Philly in the wild card round, barely won, went to Atlanta, obliterated the top-seeded Falcons, and then beat the Bears to earn their spot in the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that Rodgers now plays for. But you need to have a quarterback who is good and who gets hot at the right time. And I don't know how many teams really fall into that category of the non-powerhouse teams. But that's why they play the games, and there's still plenty of games to go. 48 have been played, 272 in all in the regular season, but still plenty more to go. 224? Is that the right number? Is my math correct? It really is. 224 regular season games left. Here's one from Sean O. PNW. If Baltimore falls short of expectations again this season, will John Harbaugh finally start feeling the heat? There have been a few moments during John Harbaugh's extended tenure with the Ravens during which we look at it and we say, is it coming to an end? And there were different rumors about other jobs he might be interested in, other teams that might be interested in him. There was some noise a couple of years ago that maybe he wanted to go coach Notre Dame. But he always stays, and it always works out. I think the real question is, can they hold this current team together? Will even if Harbaugh stays, will they have to reset? And is part of the reset new head coach? I don't know. When you look at the frustration that we saw repeatedly from Lamar Jackson on Monday night, and we remember the fact that he's got 2 more seasons before he can walk away, and it will be virtually impossible for the Ravens to tag him because his cap number, if he's tagged again in 2028, will be gigantic and unaffordable. Is he going to decide at some point he needs to move on? And what impact does that have on John Harbaugh? And look, will John Harbaugh decide he's had enough at some point? He's in his 60s. Now, I saw Jim Harbaugh recently say his dad once explained that you retire from coaching when you can no longer move the way you used to. You can no longer think the way you used to. You can no longer perform the way you used to. And then 2 years after that, you retire. Sriracha Merchant. I love this one. Do you get any sense that the league is out to get the Eagles? Between the behind-the-scenes push to get rid of the tush push, the $75,000 fine of Big Dom. By the way, Big Dom, as we discussed Monday, was fined for using his phone, texting in the bench area during a preseason game, and feeding Adam Schefter the line that the Chiefs game was won back in April and May and not through the blood, sweat, and the tears of the players. Is the league out to get the Philadelphia Eagles? Look, the league's not out to get anybody. The league doesn't care. The league's out to get as much money as it can. The league doesn't care who wins the games. And I know it was a popular narrative last year when the Chiefs were still good, and now people are going to think, oh, they favor the Eagles because the tush push wasn't removed from the rule book. Well, if the league had its way, the tush push would be gone. And that's where Schefter's take after week 2, when he said the biggest thing to me here is the game was lost in March. The game was lost when the owners refused to ban the tush push. It wasn't lost yesterday. It was lost in March. That overlooks the most obvious consequence that would have occurred if the tush push had been banned when they finally had the vote, not in March, but in May. In May is when they decided to keep it, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's only 2 months off. If the tush push goes away, the Eagles are still going to have a quarterback sneak that you can't stop. That's why from time to time I say, why don't they just say, fine, get rid of it. We'll kick your ass with this quarterback sneak. I think it would be great if they just came out and used the quarterback sneak without a tush push. And the message to the world would be, we're still fine. We're still going to gain our yard when we need it, our 2 yards when we need them. So the Eagles aren't being picked on by the league. I just think somebody decided, and I believe it was the commissioner, somebody decided that they didn't like how the tush push looks. And more specifically, they didn't like how it unfolded when the Commanders jumped offside repeatedly, when Frankie Louvu. And the strategy makes sense. 1st and goal from the 1. We jump offside to try to time the snap. All right, 1st and goal from the half-yard line. We jump offside to try to time the snap. Okay, 1st and goal from the 1/4 yard line. We jump offside to try to top the side. Yeah, half the distance, half the distance, half the distance. That's why at one point the warning was made that if they do it again, touchdown's going to be awarded. Something has never happened before. That just looked ugly. And when Mike Pereira came out and started saying in the days after that game that may be the thing that brings back the effort to get rid of the tush push, it's like, wait a minute, this is weird. But more importantly, somebody wants that play to be gone. It's the aesthetics. It has nothing to do with the competitive side of it. It is how it looks. That's the problem. In the opinion of perhaps the gentleman whose signature is on every football, it doesn't look like football, and it can get ugly when teams try to get creative in stopping it. Last question. This is a very important one. Wally Sadwasser. If you were stuck on an island with only one person, would you rather it be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and why? I mean, if I was stuck on an island with either of them, I'd probably do the Tom Hanks and make the little nest of, if you saw Castaway, makes that little nest of wood, and he's got a grooved piece, and he creates enough friction that the little nest of little pieces start to catch on fire, and he blows on it, and he's so happy when he has a fire, and he's got this great, and he's very primitive, and I would have done all that, and then I'd jump in the fire. That's what I would do if I was stuck on an island with either one of them. And I'm kidding. I don't have any personal animosity toward either guy. That's where things get sideways. Why do you hate this guy? Look, it's possible to criticize someone's actions and words and not hate them. The flip side is even worse. I won't dare say anything bad about someone because I like them. That's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to tell the truth. And I think it's possible to tell the truth without hating Aaron Rodgers. It's possible to tell the truth without hating Tom Brady. I love them. They're good for business. Hell, I'll supply the marshmallows on the desert island. I'll make the fire and I'll supply the marshmallows because both of those guys are good for business. That's where people get it twisted. It is a very naive and basic way of thinking about the world. If you criticize something, that means you hate it. That's stupid. That's lazy. It's ridiculous. And that's why Chris Collinsworth eventually got to the point where when a team would ask him, why do you hate the Giants? I just do. I just do. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.